Hi, and thank you for joining me. I'm Karen Fernandez, and this is my podcast, Living with Integrity, Creating an Abundant Life. In season 1, we talked a little bit about how what we ingest, whether through our minds, mouth, eyes, or ears, directly affect us on a physical, emotional, and spiritual level. Just as the food we eat helps us to grow and supports our body, what we watch, take in, and listen to helps us to not only develop who we are, but it also forms patterns in our life. We can't eat junk food all the time. It would get us sick and likely make us overweight. What are we doing with our free time? Are we just zoning out, playing video games, watching reels on TikTok or other social media platforms? It's easy to waste time, hours each day on our phone. It can become an addiction. The more attached we are to our technology, the more lonely and isolated people are becoming. Our creativity, drive, and desire are shot and may feel non-existent because we aren't engaging those parts of our brain that stimulate our creativity. Our brains are on autopilot, watching and being entertained by TV, video games, and social media. What happened to our creativity, drive, and desire? They are given to us as a part of our birthright. It's inside every one of us, gifts from God. We all have talents and abilities that are uniquely our own, freely given to us. But it's our job to cultivate, explore, and nurture this part of us. Otherwise, it will grow anemic and wither. We will feel the absence of creativity, drive, and desire, with feelings of being unfulfilled, depressed, anxious, bored, or melancholy. It's easy to understand how and why this happens. We get caught up in our lives, thinking it's all on us to carry the weight of everything in our lives, including our family, work, and friends. We work hard, putting our needs last, and don't look at them as being necessary or important. We feel zapped for energy, overwhelmed, and underappreciated. We feel like we can't do enough in a day to really feel good about what we've accomplished. So, of course, it makes sense when we do have a little downtime, we go for mindless time on our phones or vegging out on the couch, binging on who knows what to help us escape for a moment. I get it. Life can feel hard and overwhelming at times, especially when you feel like you have so much on your plate, many responsibilities, and people depending on you. That's how most people feel and think. But what if we shifted our mindset and let go of the guilt, pressure, competition, and need to be in control? Inside each human being is that spark which comes from our soul. This is our creativity, drive, and desire. When it's turned up full blast, there is nothing that we can't accomplish. Throughout history, anyone who has ever discovered or created something, whether on a small scale or a large, massive scale that helped the collective, they were fueled by creativity, drive, and desire. Tapping in and tuning into what our desires are, what we feel passionate about, and what is driving us, what gives us that energy in our soul and makes work feel like no work. Some people call it chi, universal energy, or the grace of God. We all have the ability to tap into this life force, where we start to get excited and energized about our lives And I mean our entire lives, not just weekends or when we go on vacation. How do we find or develop our desires? Where do we start? What if we don't feel creativity? We may not recognize or have discovered some of our gifts and talents yet. Where do we find the motivation to have the drive to do something new or different? To find our creativity and passion and to follow it. As I said before, we start right where we are at. We don't need to make this hard or complicated. We realize that we are not alone. God, universal love, however you understand or look at the Creator. God is always with us. We may not feel that at times or recognize it, especially in hard situations. From my own experience of moving across the country and starting completely over, not knowing anyone in my area, I realized that my only true source that was supporting me and helping me and staying with me each moment that I was in was God. I had a lot of alone time, so I used that time to reflect on my life, especially when I was feeling overwhelmed or scared. I looked back and saw how God has led me and got me through all of my hardest times in my life and all of my good times as well. In that moment, I realized that my part in life is necessary, but God's part is inherent. God is constant, present in all things. Once I realized that I couldn't control most, if not all aspects of my life, I surrendered and let go of the fear and worry in my heart, mind, and body. I decided I wanted to let God be God and I would be me, meaning I will do my part. I will show up for myself in my life. God will do God's part. When we get on this plane of action, we will start to witness miraculous things in our lives. Try it if you don't believe me. I did what I had to do each day, even on days when I didn't feel like doing it. I did the best I could, and I would tackle at least 2 or 3 things. I trusted and believed that God would act in conjunction with my efforts. And you know what? It started happening. Doors started opening. Synchronicities started happening on a regular. I started meeting people that led to a source of income. Opportunities started coming to me from so many different avenues. When we heal and transform our wounded interior self, no one is exempt from having some interior wounds. When we do this and remove this, we start to elevate to a state of goodwill, love, creativity, which ultimately opens us up to create a life of abundance. We've all met people in our life, sometimes just in passing, where we saw and felt the peace, joy, and contentment that they had in their lives. It is a frequency that is palpable. It's attractive and inviting. Just talking to a person in this state of being makes us feel good. They seem to have everything in life going for them. They are happy, healthy, wealthy, excited, and have enthusiasm about their lives. They live with passion and zeal, and being around them elevates the moods and the minds of others. People naturally gravitate towards them. They just have this positive energy that attracts others. They seem to have the Midas touch. Everything they do prospers and works out. This is not something for only the privileged or the blessed few. It's available for all of us, no matter what we have or what we've done. To level up our life, we have to make room and time to find our passion and creativity and develop it. Like any skill set, it takes time and effort. Making ourselves part of our priorities will not only enhance and develop this, but it will significantly improve the quality of our lives. We may feel stuck in life or like we are on a hamster wheel. Some people may think life is hard enough. Taking away their mindless pleasures is just too much to ask. I'm not saying you have to cut everything out and all at once. Remember, small hinges swing big doors. Maybe start with limiting the amount of time you spend on your phone or on social media. Cutting out some time of playing video games. I know it may seem hard at first or even unthinkable, but look at all you are gaining. Life is short, and I don't think anyone on their deathbed wishes they spent more time playing video games or on their phone, scrolling through strangers' social media posts. We are all a bit of a mystery to ourselves, but we don't have to be. We are ever changing. Did you ever notice that if you ran into someone from high school or someone you haven't seen in many years, they tend to see you and remember you how they knew you back then, even though you could be an entirely different person right now? In school, they never taught us how to develop our emotional IQ or how to expand our consciousness by our personal development, enhancing our virtues. We start this by taking time to be with ourselves. That's where the daily routine comes in handy. Cultivating alone time with ourselves and our Creator is what is needed to develop creativity, drive, and desires. By starting a daily routine, this will help to remove that distracting, negative chatter in our head. Then we can step back, let go, and say yes to self, and take an empowered action. Once we open these floodgates, life will never be the same. We can't do any of this if we don't first allow our mindset to shift. We have to be willing to be curious and open to new possibilities in our lives. We get to choose how we want to move forward in our lives. We can either hold on to that same old scarcity and poverty consciousness that has been handed down throughout society, or we can see the miracles that are in our lives and all around us. When we shift our mindset, we can create and build the life that our heart is desiring. So, to recap, here are some small, empowered action steps that we get to do if we so choose to. What really do we have to lose by trying? Time? Time is going to pass us by either way. Why not take this time to ensure a higher quality of life while opening up new doors and new possibilities for your life? 1. Develop that daily personal routine. Early morning is the best time to start a routine. 2 or 3 things to start and set the tone for your day. Meditation, breath work, exercise, stretching, yoga, praying, journaling. You can pick and create your own routine. It's important to break up your routine throughout the day. So 2 or 3 things in the morning are fine. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. 15 to 30 minutes is more than enough to help us set the tone for our day. The most important thing to remember when developing a personal routine is to periodically throughout the day to renew our efforts and intentions. This helps to keep us grounded and centered, refreshed and renewed throughout our day. Because let's face it, we can't control everything that comes to us throughout our day, but we can control how we react or respond to it. And having this routine connects us directly to our source. And being connected to our source puts us in a place of co-creation. 2. Quiet the chatter. Try to let go of some of that idle time. We tend to think that we are on our phones for only 10 or 15 minutes, But how quickly does that 10 to 15 minutes become 25 to 45 minutes? We are on our phones before bed, and when we wake up, our phones are the first things that we grab. We feel more tired from work, not because we are doing more work than the people did 20, 30, or even 40 years ago, but because we are expending so much of our mental capacity from hours on end being overstimulated by our phones. I'm guilty of being too attached to my phone myself, but we don't really have to feel guilty. We can reframe that thought to help us let go of blame and shame. We can be aware and take notice of it without judgment and try a little experiment. Our bodies and our mind are our free laboratory in which we get to experiment with to see what works best in our lives. What if we omitted just 30 minutes a day of TV, our phones, and video games? With this extra time that we have, we can start to connect to God, our source. Whether in silence, singing, dancing, drawing, cooking, the list could go on and on. Taking time for self with the acknowledgement and recognizing that the Creator is in this moment, cultivating and tapping into the frequency of God helps us to become more in tune with ourselves and our surroundings. It's grounding and renewing us to our life source energy within us. Like tapping into a power grid, it revitalizes our soul, which gives energy to the body, clarity, understanding, and wisdom to the mind. And it makes our soul soar because we are connecting with the higher purpose that each of us were created for. At first, when we let go of the chatter that is distracting us from living this higher quality of life, the silence can be deafening and make us not feel comfortable. So many thoughts may start to come to us. These thoughts are usually negative about ourselves and others. When this happens, try not to judge yourself for having these thoughts. Extend more compassion to yourself. We may have hurts or unhealed wounds that are trying to show up. Understand that this is normal when we first start to shift our mindset. When negative thoughts come in, don't fight it. Observe it and gently let it pass. Feelings are fleeting, and they are not based on reality or truth. The truth is, God loves us, each one of us. We have that as a guarantee. No matter what someone has done, while we still have breath in our lungs, God does not give up on anyone. The biggest challenge and demons we fight are the ones in our mind that keep us feeling bad or unworthy. Understand, it may be hard at first to want to let go of the distractions long enough to develop an interior life. It will be awkward at first, and you may find it hard to discipline yourself to do a routine daily. But do it anyway, because it won't always feel hard or uncomfortable. In a relatively short amount of time, we will start to enjoy this routine and look forward to connecting to ourselves and our source. Most people, once they develop a routine, really enjoy it right from the start. The hardest part most people complain about is getting up earlier than usual. But that's okay, because you can just start going to bed a little earlier. 3, watch our words. This is an important one. Our words are everything. How we talk to ourselves, how we treat others, absolutely has a direct effect on what we bring into our lives. When we speak hollow, empty words, we start to dim our own light and lose a bit of our own power. Integrity is everything when it comes to creating and manifesting a reality of abundance. It's important that we stand by our word so we can anchor ourselves in trustworthiness. If we say we are going to do something or going to call someone, we should follow through. Our words speak to who we are. Our actions have to match our words, or we are just living in pretense. If we are trying to create a life of abundance, our body, mind, and spirit has to be aligned, and we have to be connected to our source, directly to our source. But we won't directly connect to our source on the God frequency if we are not living with integrity. How we do one thing is how we do everything. If we are not being authentic with others, we are not being authentic with ourselves. So how we talk to others, especially when we pay lip service with our words, but don't show up with our actions, that directly affects what we're able to create and manifest in our own lives. When our words become hollow and empty, when our behaviors don't match our words, if we are gossiping, sneaky, or doing things that are harming others, we are not going to be able to create or manifest any type of abundance. How we treat others directly affects what comes back to us. Some people call it karma, but it's the natural law of the universe. What you put out in this world comes back to you. We sometimes delude ourselves to think we are on a spiritual path, but we have to be careful not to delude ourselves that we are just being self-centered and selfish. Loving ourselves and putting ourselves first is what we need to do to establish this routine and this connection to our source. But staying there and being selfish or self-centered doesn't help create abundance. It keeps us stuck on self. To have real expansion and a conscious that grows beyond us, we have to consider others and be of service to others, because our needs get met while we're serving and helping others. It's a co-creation, not a competition. When we live in a mindset of poverty, scarcity, when we are jealous, bitter, gossiping, or thinking we're better than others, we lose the ability to create, and we will feel that disconnect to our source. When we behave this way, we put ourselves in a love frequency deficit. We put ourselves in a limited box where growth isn't possible. Or if we are on a spiritual path, but we are haughty and think our knowledge is somehow superior to others, it puts us in a place of lack and pretense, and we won't create abundance this way as well. All of these things can and will be great stumbling blocks to our advancement in the game of life. Working on and developing a daily routine, quieting that chatter, is one of the fastest routes we can take to a personal close union with our Creator. It is there we can start to shift and feel our creativity, drive, and desire come to life. Establishing and creating the time to do this is probably the hardest part. It will take some motivation and discipline. We all have what it takes to do this. But if you feel overwhelmed on how to start, or that you're hitting a speed bump or wall, maybe think about investing in a coach or find a person who can support you in your efforts. If you would like to have that personal support, you can contact me at coachingwithkaren.com. It will be my privilege to assist you through my 90-day program called Total Transformation, Mind, Body, and Spirit. I know I wouldn't have taken this huge step out into the unknown and move across the country. I am living the life I've always dreamed about, but was too afraid to go after on my own in the past. I am happier now in my 40s than I ever was in my 20s. My life has a new purpose and meaning. I am creating what I want in my life. You can have this too. Sessions are virtual or can be in person where available. The link to contact me along with my website are located in the episode description. Tune in next week when we talk about the in-between time and what to do when we don't feel like showing up for ourselves. How to break down barriers that keep us frozen, stuck, or stagnant, to free us so we can truly live our best life. Thank you for listening.